Go ahead and sit down. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call the Small Business Development Committee to order. And the first thing we're going to do is Chairman Tolver has volunteered to do our opening prayer. So, Chairman Tolver, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could take just a second to tell you I really appreciate these meetings. They're very informative to me, and you guys are help educate us, and we appreciate you being here. This is the busiest day I've had on the calendar since I've been here in 11 years. It's wall to wall, and a lot of people have got constituents in, and rest assured that your presentations are viewed by people because it's recorded online, and but everybody's really busy, from people coming in from high school groups and things like that. So let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time we have here together, and we pray, Lord, that we would be better stewards of our time and our duties to our constituents, and that you lead, guide, and direct us, and that we would always do what's best for the citizens and pleasing to you. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for those remarks and, of course, the prayer. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hunter, the microphone is yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I understand some folks will be filtering in, and like you said, folks are watching online, but it's great to be with you again. My name is Hunter Loggins. I'm the State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business, the nation's leading small business advocacy association. In Georgia, we have roughly 7,000 members spanning across all industries, some represented on this committee and some with me today. We are a one-member, one-vote organization, so if you see me or you see our logo on something, that means it's vitally important for small business. So you see me down at the Capitol every day, but what you don't see are the hardworking members of our organization. They are the moms and pops, 20 or fewer employees, restaurants, small manufacturers, bus dealers, jewelry store owners, everything. So when you'll often hear me say it's tough for a small business owner to take 30 minutes away from their day for lunch, much less come down to the Capitol. So when our members come down, it's a source of great pride for me, and I'm glad you guys get to hear what their issues are. Like I said, it ranges from whatever industry they're in. So if there's an issue that has legislation that's pending in the General Assembly this year, I will be able to tell you about it. They're not policy experts, and heck, neither am I, but I do my best. So if there is a bill going through that could help them with their issue, I'll be sure to tell you about it. And if not, it's a perfect opportunity for legislation to grow. Like you said, Representative Tarvin, this a lot of times in this committee, legislation blossoms from it. 2 years ago, we got an exemption for tangible personal property increased to $20,000. That was huge. So that's just one prime example. With me today, I've got Fritz Engelman. He's going to tell you a little bit about his business and the issues that I don't want to say plaguing, but maybe you could choose a better word for it. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm Fritz Engelman. I own Classic Bus Sales out of Clarksville, Georgia. We sell new and used vehicles to the commercial sector, like the hotels, daycare. We also bid on state contracts. I've been a franchise dealer and used car dealer. I was both up until last year, when all of a sudden they said I only could have one, which is understandable. So I can kind of speak on this, and I'm not here to complain or anything. What I'm really going to speak on is things that the state may be able to do to help other dealers or curb fraud and wastefulness. Right now, used car dealer and franchise dealer are managed by two different state entities. Department of Revenue does franchise, used cars under Secretary of State. absolute waste of resources. One should manage both. And then there should not really be a franchise or used car dealer. You're an automotive retailer. Franchise dealers sell used vehicles also. The difference is a franchise dealer has none of the inspections. They're self-governed, where a used car dealer, since I've been on that side, is treated more of a, it's like an investigation. They come in looking. But the franchise guys don't have any of that. And it's really puts the used car guys kind of in a bad light sometimes. They should be all under the same umbrella, should be managed the same. We're all selling vehicles. Franchise guys, if they're only selling franchise cars, fine to be a franchise dealer, but you have a used car dealer or used car division, why are they not held to the same standard as a used car, solely used car dealer is? It's very confusing when you go and try to, like I went through it of why am I having to give up my used car dealer's license? I've maintained two to make sure I was compliant. And you can't get, it's basically, here's what you're going to do and no response, turn your tags in. It's pretty unprofessional in my mind. So that's one of the things I think the state could do by merging those together, would streamline the process and put it all under one umbrella. You wouldn't have to have multiple license plates. You just have automotive dealer license plate instead of one's a franchise, one's a used car. You just have one. Have one division that's used to enforcing the rules, and that's like Secretary of State. I'm not sure why the Department of Revenue handles franchise. It's kind of out of their wheelhouse more than a Secretary of State, because Secretary of State has the inspectors out doing the on-site inspections. The next side of it, where state of Georgia is missing out on a lot of revenue, is there's no law that restricts people from selling vehicles for profit. You can sell all your vehicles you want as long as you're not making money. Once you for profit, then you legally you're supposed to have a dealer's license. And I think upstairs right now they're meeting, which I'm going to go to here in a minute. They're trying to put in some restrictions that you have to sell 5 or more, because they have hundreds of or thousands of dealers that only sell a few a year. I think they're going to make some changes on that. But right now, if there's people in Georgia, there's one particular guy out in Loganville, Georgia. Since I've had my dealership, he's been selling vehicles and parts without a dealer's license or a parts license since 2010, probably. Selling hundreds of vehicles, no dealer's license. I've called everybody and their brother. The association will write him a letter, but there's no enforcement. There's no law that says he has to have it. The only law that restricts this guy is zoning. So for some reason, the zoning just can't get him shut down. He's got vehicles laying out all over his property. I've had people, churches come in from Texas to buy something, and what he represented wasn't there, and they didn't have the money to get back home except for gas money to drive a bus that they were going to take back. He is a lot of fraud going on, not just with him, but with a lot of entities like that. Where the state's really missing out on that is he's not paying title ad valorem tax when he sells the vehicles. If the person that he sells it to is in Georgia, yes, they'll pay title ad valorem tax. But he, as a non-dealer, he should be paying TAVT on everything that he buys that he resells. He's just, as we call it, curb stoning. And one of the reasons he's allowed to do that is because he buys vehicles from one auction company that's called Gov Deals, which a lot of Georgia surplus equipment goes through Gov Deals. And the entities that are selling these vehicles on Gov Deals, a county, city, state, are not signing the titles over. All they do is, well, they sign them over, but they don't transfer them into the buyer's name, which is state law. It's $100 fine if you accept an open title, and it's $100 fine if you pass an open title. And state of Georgia is the most guilty of them of not transferring title. There's not a law that needs to be passed. There just needs to be a memo that says do your job, basically. And where the state's missing out so much on that is they're selling, let's say they're selling a pickup truck. Somebody buys it on Gov Deals in Georgia. They sell it to another guy, and he decides to sell it to another guy. It never gets charged to TAVT until the final person, and they're not dealers. If you're a dealer, fine, but there's a lot of equipment that goes through there. When I did my last calculation, it was around $1.3 million that I figured Georgia's missing out on TAVT because of people buying individually and reselling equipment. I think Georgia sells, I didn't bring my notes, but probably 3,000, 4,000 vehicles through Gov Deals every year. And you just think a percentage of those are getting sold and then resold without someone that has a dealer license collecting TAVT. And all it is just the city or county needs to do their job. I bought 26 off a Georgia DOT auction, and none of them were transferred correctly. All they did is sign over their name, and I had open titles. Yeah, I'm a dealer, so it was no big deal. My competitor, the guy that's out there curbstoning vehicles out in Lawrenceville or Loganville, he bought just as many, and he didn't went and resold them. No big deal. So there's a lot of things that we don't need laws passed, just have people do their job. And then also, we moved from Lake City down by Forest Park about 5 years ago up to Clarksville, our business. And if anybody's ever started a business or changed address with a business in Georgia, it's painful to change all that information. There should be one database that you go in and say, here's my new information, and then it filters through the state system. I searched for 2 months trying to figure out how to change one of my Department of Revenue, because they will not take your phone call. There's a lot of those entities that you only can email them. And I finally decided, let me try calling. And I called this one particular entity, and they said, oh, no, we're not online. You have to call us. Well, everybody else, you have to do it online, but that one part of Department of Revenue, and I have to give you a special passcode to be able to get in. Well, it doesn't say anywhere on their website. If I want to pick up the phone finally, I never tried calling because I didn't like burning on hold for 30, 40 minutes a day. I don't have time for that. I just assume should go on there. So it would be nice if you do any kind of change with your state certifications, filings. We got the technology nowadays. You just ask ChatGPT to write you a program, probably. It won't cost you anything. So that's, I think, something that helps small business. And then last, I bid on a lot of contracts in Georgia. DOS has done a great job of now consolidating a lot of purchasing through them, where it's called a cooperative procurement, where they most bidders, if you're within a certain percentage of each other, you're going to get awarded, and it gives the final end user a opportunity to purchase from somebody that has maybe a product they like or a different type of service, things like that. But what's happened since COVID is our pricing has escalated tremendously in my industry, and a lot of dealers have taken advantage of it. And right now, state entities, instead of saying, hey, we're all going to buy this 15-passenger vehicle, let's get 3 or 4 quotes. Well, let's get a quote from everybody that's on contract. They just go to one that they have a relationship with. And I'm dealing with an entity right now that in the past 3 years has bought 100, almost 200 units a year. My price is $16,800 each, less. And they are still purchasing off. So it was about $3.2 million last year. They overspent for the same vehicle, and I actually have a better product. And I'm not just saying that because I sell it. I am selling a substantial better product. But they chose to, because of relationship, instead of buying, and their claim was that they had better lead time, which was 2 months, better lead time. And they spent $16,800 per unit. Last year, they bought 194 units at an escalated price. And so, and you can't even get a meeting with them, is the hardest part. Hey, I want to show you my product. They're going to buy, basically, we're buying from who we want to, and we're going to overspend by $3 to $4 million a year in the past 3 years of state funds, federal funds, and not even giving other people opportunities. They'll call and say, hey, give us your price. There's no negotiation. There's no really, it came down to when we met with them, they had a better delivery. So you're going to spend 16 grand more a vehicle because of 2 months. I think the state should go in on any purchasing. I don't care if it's paper, vehicles, toiletries, mandate that they get at least 3 quotes. Even if it's off DOS contract, who's got the best price? Do your due diligence, spend our money in a correct manner. And it's not happening. And there's a lot of entities that are overpaying where they could get a less expensive equal to product, and they're not being good stewards of our dollar at all. And there's a lot of that going on. DOS has done a great job so that agencies do not have to go out to bid. They can just go and purchase off their contract, but it has allowed for a lot of over expenditures where, and a lot of them will be like, well, it doesn't matter, we get 80% from federal government, 10% is local funding, and 10% is state, only costing us really locally 20%. So what's the difference? Well, it adds up over time. So that's all the suggestions I have, and I really appreciate y'all taking the time to listen to us rattle on up here.
Thank you. I appreciate that presentation. Hunter, we'll be able to talk further about some of these issues with Mr. Engelman's issues, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Any questions before?
Do y'all have any questions? No. Bill? Oh, we're good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It warms my heart seeing active and engaged members, because he's going right now to the Transportation Committee while he's down there taking advantage of it. There are a few things that I want you to look at that are kind of have a bit of a relationship to what he was talking about. HB 863, the Small Business Set Aside Act, it's a bipartisan bill that mandates agencies consider using 20% of their procurements on small business.
863?
Yes, sir. And there's one I was trying to find it. It passed last year in the House and is sitting in the Senate by Representative Matt Reeves. It deals with quality-based examination of contracts, and that could be some language you could work into that Mr. Engelman was talking about.
And what was Matt Reeves's? Do you know?
I'm trying to find it. If once I find it, I'll let you guys know.
Okay. Super.
We ready to move on to the
Yes,
next?
sir.
Come on here. I want to introduce you to Michael Walker. He's the chairman of our Leadership Council, which is an advisory board for NFIB Georgia.
Mr. Walker?
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you. As Hunter says, I'm chair of the Leadership Council for NFIB here in the state of Georgia. In addition to that, I'm president-elect of the National Association of Benefit and Insurance Professionals with operations out of Washington, D.C. It's a 12,000 member organization of agents and brokers that advocate on behalf of consumers of health care and distribute that. In addition to that, I serve at the pleasure of Governor Brian Kemp to the Board of Georgia Public Health. I'm here this morning to speak in favor of House Bill 1110. That is known as the Georgia Small Business Healthcare Affordability Act. And also is known as the ICRA bill, which is the Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Arrangement. Now, what's interesting about both of these is that it kind of correlates with a piece of legislation and a bill that President Trump has introduced, which is called the Choice Act. It's the custom health option and individual care expense. Now, we all are very much aware, unfortunately, of the rising costs of health care. And with that brings about exorbitant costs of premiums. This year, for annual enrollment, there was a lot of chaos because of the expiration of the credits for what's affectionately known as Obamacare, but the ACA, Affordable Care Act. Because of those expiration of credits, it caused healthcare premiums to rise exorbitantly. And there are a lot of people that have not been able to continue their health care. I'd just like to give you a few facts about this. First of all, the ICRA bill, it was introduced by President Trump in 2019 and made available in 2020. Then President Biden continued that bill and the process of that because of the fact that during COVID, there were a lot of small businesses that closed. There were a lot of people that lost their health care. As a matter of fact, over the last 5 years, premiums for families have climbed 26%, matching trends in inflation and wage growth. The rising costs are driven by expensive prescription drugs, chronic health issues, increased use of medical services, and rising hospital prices. Kaiser Family Foundation did a study and found that the average of $6,000 for an individual employee and $14,000 for a family in 2019. However, they were able to determine that in 2025, that average for an individual had increased to $8,952, and a family from $14,000 to $25,000. Also, it says that during the COVID time, it's estimated that between 2 million and 3 million people may have lost their employee-based coverage between March and September during that time period. The unfortunate part about that is that those people turn to Medicaid. That's the only place they could go, or they went uninsured. And I'm sure you all are probably well aware that President Reagan, he signed a bill back in the mid-'80s, which is primarily the Emergency Care Act, which says that if anybody is here in the U.S. and they need medical attention in an urgent manner, they get to go to the emergency room. The emergency room has to treat them because hospitals and clinics are federal contractors with the federal government. And it's because of that law that they have to be treated. Well, because of everybody losing their health care insurance and it's becoming unaffordable, we have a situation on our hands where there are people that are going without insurance, and whenever they have an issue, they go straight to the emergency room. And I know we all are well aware of the immigration issue, and I know that we're making steps to take care of that. But they are covered under that Emergency Act. There were a lot of conversation that one party was trying to insure illegal aliens. Well, that's a little bit misleading because of the Emergency Care Act that was signed by President Reagan. It covers people that are here in this country, even as immigrants. And so you know more than likely they don't have insurance either. So they're going straight to the emergency room. So I say in all this to say that we do have a crisis on our hand. But here in Georgia, you know, I think it's 10 years straight we've been known as the best place to do business. And that's a very proud and distinguished accomplishment. and we should be proud of it. On the other hand, though, there are small businesses here in Georgia that do not do as well. And it was funny, before I came up to speak, I was looking at your monitor up there, and it talked about small business, the backbone of the economy. We've all heard that before. And I agree with that. Small businesses employ more people than anybody else combined. But unfortunately, a lot of laws, regulations do not enhance small businesses. It breaks the back of small businesses. And here we are right now, where you have a lot of small businesses in Georgia, people that are a member of our association and what have you, that want to provide health care for their employees, but they can't afford to because of the rising cost of it. This bill, which is called the ICRA bill, but it's the Georgia Small Business Healthcare Affordability Act, what it's asking is for legislation to be passed to allow small businesses with 50 or fewer employees, their employer be allowed to get a tax credit of $600 a year for contributing up to that amount to individuals that work with him, whether they are full-time employees or part-time employees or seasonal workers, because they are part of it as well. You know, the one thing about healthcare, it's not a partisan issue, it's bipartisan. We all need healthcare, and at some point or another. But if we don't start to get ahead of the problem while we can with those of us that are in leadership, then those that are not in leadership, those that do not have a voice, do not have a platform, those that are not Michael Walker that can come down and talk to you, that's going to be a problem, and it's going to continue to spiral, and it's going to cost us more in the long run. Sometimes, you know, as a child, they tell you to go ahead and take care of this issue now or spend a lot more money on it in the future. I think that's where we are. If you think about the tax credit, and I've heard people say that, why should we give an incentive or a leg up to somebody that's not doing the right thing? Well, how do we know that they weren't trying to do the right thing, or they didn't have a desire to do the right thing? We don't know the intent of that small business owner and why he hasn't. But what we do know, that if we were to support this bill, that would be an incentive for him to work and hopefully get some of his people some access to health care. Because if we can do preventative health care, that'll go a long way in solving the problem and stop people going to the emergency room, which is clogging up and tying up resources for people that really need emergency care at that time. The other part, when you look at the dollars, $600 per employee on an annual basis is $50 a month. That's all we're asking to help solve this issue. NFIB is dedicated to doing that. I've been working with a lot of carriers around the state of Georgia. They're all in favor of it. What it does is it helps an employer budget. It helps them control expense. Because the current situation now is, I know every year the carriers have to file in order to get approval for premiums. And I understand that they are regulated. They have a certain amount of reserves in order to pay claims. We understand that. But at the same time, because of the cost and the rising costs comes from providers. How many times you've been to a hospital and you get an aspirin for $100? That's where a lot of the cost is. But they're having to try to keep up with that, but then they're squeezing out the little guy that can't afford 35% increase. There are people that were on Georgia Access and it was able to be manageable and give them health care, but when the tax credits expired, it went from somewhere like, say, somebody may be paying $50 or so much to maybe $300 or $400. And so now you have people going without medication, without health care, because they're having to make a choice between food or health care. So we're just trying to get to a point where we can kind of start to fix this problem. And I know it's a big problem, and that old saying of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, this is just a bite. But it would be helpful and it could go a long way. So I'm asking you guys to look favorable at that piece of legislation. I'm open to questions.
I'm familiar with the piece of legislation. Eddie Lunson's on that bill. I'm sure we're gonna hear it in Insurance Committee.
Oh, really?
So it's actually being heard today at 1:30 in the subcommittee on Ways and Means because it's a credit. You've got two of the subcommittee chairs signed on to that bill. The chairman of the Insurance Study Committee last year, again, Representative Reeves, is signed on to that bill. We think of it as a worker enticement program, essentially. It's a on-ramp for those small businesses they just need to get over the hump. There's that gap between the not covered small businesses and those that are being able to pay individually or through a group plan. It's just that small incentive. Let's say I own a hardware store, right? I want to hire a middle manager to hopefully be able to expand my business, grow, and then eventually get into a group plan or a self-insured plan, but I can't yet because I need that worker. If I can't offer that benefit, that worker might go to the Home Depot, who we love, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people want to be part of a local business and support locally. So that is our thought and our hope that credit could incentivize it. Okay, now it finally makes financial sense for me to offer this benefit. And it's less onerous because it is in the form of an ICRA. I pay the employee and the employee goes and shops. So they have plenty of options at their disposal, much less than just something that a business can offer that might not be as good. But then again, there's also stopgaps in the bill to say you can't offer less than what you already offer. So it makes it so a business can't be like, okay, this is way better, I'm going to offer, worse benefits. So.
Well, basically what he's saying is if you're already on a plan that offers minimal essential coverage, which is by law what has to be done, even with Georgia Access or what have you. So if you have a plan like that and it is basically about the same, you can't leave and go over here and do an ICRA because you won't get the credits for it. So there are some little checks and balances in there to keep people from just going totally the other way. One other thing that, one of the reasons why the number of 50 is selected, and I know some people say, well, we should do 10 or fewer and all of like that, and I understand that, but I would caution them to think about this. If you were to set it at 10, and a lot of small businesses have part-time employees, they also have seasonal employees. So you say if a small business, and this is just an example, if they have 10 employees and have 10 part-time employees, the calculations from the government is based on full-time equivalent of employees. So then they would take a calculation of those 10 employees that are part-timers and calculate how many hours combined they work on a given month, and then divide that by the hours of a full-time employee. And it would come in at about half of that. So then instead of 10 employees, they now have 15 employees. That's the way the calculations work. So if you cut it off at something really small like that, then you could be excluding people that it's meant to help, such as part-time employees and seasonal employees. So that's why the number of 50 is set there. And just as a little bit more background, in the Medicare, and this just kind of shows some alignment. When a small business has Medicare employees that are turning Medicare eligible, if it's 20 or fewer, they sign up for Medicare, and Medicare becomes the primary, and the group benefit plan that they were on is secondary. Whereas if it's above 20, then it's the opposite. So I'm just using that as an example that between 50 and 20, that's a really sweet spot because you allow for other nuances and things to pick up. That's all.
obviously we want more people insured, because right now they're either uninsured or on ACA, like you said, individual coverages. So that's just driving up hospital costs in the first place. So we want people covered in general.
Yeah, and the way insurance works is that the more people that are in it, the more the cost will go down. It goes up because we're not spreading the cost around. And so if we could get more people in, a lot of the people are young and healthy and feel like they don't need insurance. But when they really need it, they really need it because it's because of accidents or something else, so to speak. So if we can get some access to coverage and get people in the mindset of this is like maintenance, this is for my health, this will help me to become a better person, what have you, more successful. If we can get them in that mindset and they get used to that, as they grow up, we can continue to fix the problem. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I've noticed, excuse me, at our local hospital that a lot of times the patients do use the emergency room as just in doctor's office visit. And we're struggling locally to maintain ambulance service in the community because of it being abused by different individuals. We've actually had to let everybody know people were calling to get an ambulance to the hospital because they thought that they would avoid the lines in the emergency room. And so they were unnecessarily using the ambulance service, and now the whole community has to pay over $1 million a year, and we're talking about a small community, to subsidize the ambulance service just to come to our community, and that's because of the abuse. It's sad, but it's true.
You're absolutely right. The other part about that is that if someone gets into an ambulance, say that's owned or operated by your hospital, then that person is now a patient of your hospital because they are now on your property. And once they drive into there, you can't turn them away unless you treat them through the emergency room, and that's part of that same law.
That's true. Well, Mr. Walker, again, thank you very much for your presentation. Hunter, we'll get together, afterwards, either with members of the committee and speak further on this.
Great.
We'll see what's going on. I'm glad that Chairman Tolver knows what's going on.
Barely. We got 3 presenters in 17 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. We got to get going. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
If I may, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, we've got another member that I'm really excited about. It's her first time presenting in committee. Mary Jo? Yes. All right. I'm going to get her this way. It always brings me great joy when we have members want to take an active and direct approach into, here, come around here, and take advantage of their membership and what it all has to offer. And we'll invite folks to come down, and like I mentioned, it's tough to get away for 30 minutes for a lunch, much less coming down to Atlanta. So thank you, Mary Jo, for coming and joining us today.
All right, thank you, excuse me, to everyone for your time and attention this morning. So I very much appreciate being here. Another comment about health insurance. I have a couple of examples. Back in 2013, and the healthcare issues have been looming for a long time. So believe it or not, my husband and I were laid off one day apart in February of 2013. So we decided to take our future a little bit into our own hands, and that we were going to open up a small business. But one of us had to have a corporate job because we had to have health care. So even back to 2013, we couldn't afford the premiums of a couple $1,000s a year for the kind of coverage that we were used to. Right now, I'm a GC, I'm a designer first, a GC by necessity, and I do remodeling, mostly interior. And I work with a lot of contractors. So when I say contractors, I'm talking plumbers, electricians, tile setters, HVAC, et cetera. So all of these people need to rely on that spouse that can get a job in the corporate environment so that they can get decent health care, or they're going to go uninsured, like Mr. Walker said, and kind of take the risk. I have one tile setter who has a family, and his son was just diagnosed with sciatica in high school, and he's got a future of very bad, they didn't catch it in time, very bad medical issues, and he's only on catastrophic, which is not covered. So the healthcare crisis is something that probably can't be fixed by the state of Georgia, but I think that proposal for the legislation would be a great help to a lot of small businesses, including myself. So the second thing I wanted to mention was the permitting process. So because I do mostly interior construction, I deal with permits, and home improvement, it really has been up since COVID, since the onset of COVID, and we continue to build less and less homes, and so the construction is up, thankfully for me. Most of what I'm going to speak about probably pertains more to the bigger counties, Fulton, Gwinnett, Cobb, DeKalb, probably Chatham, and maybe down in Macon area. So, but basically the first issue is that permitting is a disincentive to homeowners because they feel that if they get a permit, the property taxes will go up. So as an example, I'm about ready to do, hopefully, about a $250,000 job on a house that is going to finish out their entire basement. And he doesn't want a permit because of that. So we're disincentivizing that. But now, if you contrast that with me as a designer, that could take a house, could paint the outside, do some landscaping, do drapes on the inside, paint it, tile, rugs, I'm also going to improve that house by, $100,000, $150,000 in terms of the resale value, but yet that's not going to touch the homeowner's property taxes. So I just think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there. It's a very difficult process, which I'll talk about next. And I think that we really need to kind of evaluate the whole purpose of what we're doing with the permitting process, and if there are ways to make it far more easier for homeowners, because I'm assuming that I'm going to make this assumption that the purpose of the permitting process is to help the homeowner get quality work done to code so that they're not going to have issues down the road when they do sell the house, or if they have other structural problems. First off, I would say that there are a lot of people operating out there, I'm sure you know this, that are not GCs and licensed GCs. So, and there's no really enforcement, no stopping it. I had a contractor who was helping a customer, and the neighbor called, reported him, and they shut down the work. But I mean, no offense to him, but nothing ever happened to him that he was not licensed. The only thing is we went and pulled a permit, and we got the situation remedied. What needs to be permitted should be reevaluated, in my estimation. If I call the city of Atlanta, they're going to tell me if I replace my oven, I need to permit that. Is that really realistic? People, so I think that the level of what the people in the government want to have permitted versus what really happens in reality is dramatically different. The entire permit process is difficult to understand. I've pulled permits in Johns Creek, Brookhaven, Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, and the city of Atlanta. Sandy Springs is awesome. They have privatized it, and they've made it pretty simple. I can walk in and get it done pretty simply. The city of Atlanta, if you call, you're going to have people tell you that, oh, the information is on the website. Where on the website? It's extremely difficult to get it done. It's so difficult that for big jobs, I have to hire an expediter. So we have people that can make $1,500 or $2,000. My expediter lives in Florida, out of state, and she makes her whole income is on expediting permits, because she knows the system and she knows who to call. To me, that's a little bit of pay to play. I think the system should be easy so that if a homeowner wants to do it, the homeowner can, or if a lowly GC like myself can do it, that it should be pretty simple, and I don't have to spend 2 weeks on the phone going back and forth with different people to say, what is the next step? Where on the website is it? Who do I call? When do I do my rough-in inspection? The language is also difficult. For example, when I file a permit, it's listed as a collection. What is a collection? I don't know. I recommend differentiating new construction from remodeling and interior construction. So right now, if I'm building a home or putting on an addition, or if I'm outfitting a basement, it's all lumped together. So I think that that would help kind of separate it, because it's far more complicated when you're going from the ground up. Oh, here's the other thing. As a GC, when I pull a permit, my plumber, my electrician, my HVAC guy, they all need to pull their own separate permits. But I cannot look online to see if they've done the rough-in, to see if they've done the final inspection. I don't really understand why. It seems like it should be under the umbrella of the GC. As an example, last week I had a final inspection, and he told me, he said, well, your electrician never called in a final. And I'm like, well, why didn't I know that? Why didn't you call me before you did your final inspection that I couldn't pass? I mean, this is just like baby steps, and it is a waste of our time. I hate to say waste, but it is, because you're sitting and you're waiting for an inspector, and you're going to find out new information that should have been told to you online so I can remedy it. So I feel like this, you know, we actually call it an aggravation tax, because it's a tax on our money and it's a tax on our time. So I highly recommend maybe getting some end users together that would I'd be happy. I don't work full-time because I'm getting old, but I'd be happy to volunteer if you could get some end users together and say, let's streamline this, let's make it easy, let's bundle it all together so that we could fix this process. And probably, I don't mean this as a negative, but probably cut some payroll that is used to pushing paper. No offense to anybody, they're very helpful and kind, but I just think it's an opportunity for everyone, and probably an opportunity for homeowners to get better quality.
We've got some legislation dealing with permitting now.
Okay.
I don't know if it touches your particular subject, but we're looking at it as we speak. And
Okay.
in the interest of time, is it Ms. Williams?
So I'm saddened by it, but it's probably good for timing and for Ms. Frazier coming up. But May was not able to make it
That's fine. That's
today.
fine.
But her plight is similar to Ms. Alton's here and Mr. Engelman's from earlier, is the permitting and licensing process. I'm hearing more and more about it, how difficult it is to, one, get a permit, and two, get a license, especially in Atlanta. So if there's something we could look at, a streamlined process across the board, but the counties and localities are still able to be in control of it, would be beneficial for us. But again, thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure to be here. You guys have my number. Happy to chat anytime. I'm down here every day during session. So
We'll talk further. Need your support on 812.
We got another speaker?
Yes, we do. We got it. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead and get, I'm just going to get him coming up, and I'm going to ask him something.
Okay.
I don't know how we can tell Atlanta or a city or a county how they can regulate, but I'm willing to listen offline.
sure, absolutely.
I think that's bad area to be in, not allow them to have regulations like they see fit for their county.
Sure. But if it's under the purview of the state in terms of what is up to code and whatnot, there could be a process where all of that is streamlined, and then again, there could be a singular database like she was mentioning it, but it might come down to budget, which is again out of my purview.
Well, we need to move on because Ms. Frazier, you're up. And Hunter, we can talk later. I'm sorry, it's gone overboard. We're not going to take any questions at this time. We'll talk offline after the meeting is over. So, come on. There we go. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and actually Vice Chair isn't here today, and members of the committee. Good morning. And so in the interest of time, I may not use the slides, but we'll have them up. My name is Montina Young Frazier, and I am an executive board member with the Henry County Chamber of Commerce, where I'm honored to serve, and I'm also the chairwoman for the tourism board. And I do want to acknowledge our president and CEO, Joe Henning, is also here today. And we have our advocacy day at the Capitol. I'm also joined by Judy McMurdy, who is a consultant with our chamber, which will talk a little bit about some of our programs. And I just want to thank you for your leadership and for your continued commitment to Georgia's small business community. Henry County is my home and home to over 900 members. These are Georgia families, founders, job creators, and taxpayers. Our chamber has moved beyond traditional networking to build structured, data-driven systems and programs that help our entrepreneurs build, scale, and grow right here in Georgia. We were the #1 chamber in 2022, and we had a membership director who was #1 in the country in 2025. So we're proud of that as well. So I wanted to share some of our strategy here and how it aligned, but what I'll do is highlight just quickly some of our impact metrics, and then I'll let Judy share more about our chamber. But we've been able to have a 93% retention rate, over $516.2 million in visitor spending. We're #10 in the state in Henry County, even with all our traffic. $130,000 direct business investment from our programs and support of 31,000 solopreneurs with our programming, which we're proud of. And we have had government contract growth with our small business members, mental wellness, leadership toolkit, and our Flex program that supports our youth entrepreneurs. So I'm just going to pass it along, again, in the interest of time, to Judy McMurdy to talk a little bit more about our leadership and mentorship programs.
Yes, and probably as you know, I'm sorry, my name is Judy McMurtry. My company is JAM Excel Consultant, and I am a consultant for the Chamber as well as for small businesses. I focus on leadership development and training. My passion is because, as you may know, I want to give you a little stats that's going to make you a little nervous. By 2030, we have 45 to 55% of boomers are eligible for retirement. And Gen Z has the highest anxiety amongst the generation. So we're walking out the door as far as a boomer generation without transferring knowledge over. So I just want you to understand that statistic as we look at small businesses. 87% of small business confidence within our United States citizens have confidence more in small business than they do in any other entity. So you'll know that we are extremely important, but we also have to look at the fact that we need more support, and we need you to understand how can we come alongside. The Chamber I love because Joe, as Montina mentioned, has changed the focus to focus on small businesses because we want to make sure our community stays strong and we drive economic impact to our communities so that we don't lose businesses. And so with that said, we have changed over to have like a core collective group because collaboration is key and it's extremely important to collaborate as chamber members. So we do a core collaborative group. Last year we did a mentorship program that we partnered with larger businesses and brought in small businesses to work collectively together. And we had quite a bit of success with that as well. So we have quite a few initiatives. That's only thing I'm mentioning to you as far as the chamber, that we can work alongside the government to help you out. Because we do this work every day. So we know how to improve and how to, like take that one bite at a time from the elephant. And so if we partner more together, the chamber and the government and larger corporations, we will be able to weather the storm because it's 10 large industries that will be impacted, and they talked about the medical industry, that will be heavily impacted by 2030. Are we really paying attention to that? Because that's like less than 4 years away. What are we doing to get ahead of that? That's all I have to say.
And again, just highlighting with some of the interests, we do have a blue ocean advantage that we've created at our chamber. And again, we like to do a lot to empower our solopreneurs or our smaller entrepreneurs. Our membership is 900 members strong. We have recruitment and confidence. Again, we have the #1 new membership coordinator in the entire country in 2025. We also have business stability. And again, tourism as our engine. We're top 10 in the state. We also do tourism grants for our small businesses there to increase for our spending there for our businesses. And again, the direct investment I shared earlier. And what Judy talked about was our mentorship delivering ROI. We have billion-dollar businesses in Henry County, one of which we're proud of, woman-owned Bennett, who is supportive of our chamber, also in the leadership. And then again, government contracting, HIPAA compliance with this mentor that was able to increase her business. State Farm, we've had this particular State Farm, let's see here, owner.
She's an owner.
And she expanded to states. Yes, and then we've had, again, members that were awarded Georgia Department of Education this Boost Grant, open a new school site. And we have the Henry Hub, again, supporting our small businesses in the community. So with that, again, I just want to thank you all for the state environment. Again, DOS, I'm familiar with the Georgia procurement, the support there. I looked online yesterday. There were 631 opportunities available to our small businesses in this state. And the thing I say is they can't win if they don't bid. So we want to make sure that our businesses have the fundamental foundation so that they can succeed. And thank you for your time and for your partnership in keeping Georgia the best state in the nation to do business. And we believe excellence at the local level strengthens Georgia's competitiveness at the state and national level.
Also, we do partner with our county and city in Henry County. That's why we're strong. So just trying to pass that on a little bit for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. You have a question, Chairman Tuttle?
Yes, sir.
What is the population of about the population of Henry County approximately?
Probably about 289,000.
How much?
289,000.
Wonder how that ranks in the state. In the top 10, sure?
Yeah, we're in the
We're
top 10.
probably in the top 10 in the state. You know, we're the fastest, one of the fastest growing counties, top 5 in the country.
Still see a lot of growth coming there.
Oh,
We do.
absolutely. Yes, sir. We do.
Yeah.
That's working together, collaboration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we also, representative? Number 25? Yes, sir.
My question is not to this lady, it's actually a comment about the presentation on permitting. Am I allowed to make that? Okay. I have pulled permits for over 30 years as a licensed civil engineer. I'm concerned that if we water it down, it will be to the benefit of the contractors, not the homeowners or the job owners. Because you're going to get shabby contractors to do your job, do your work, and then people are going to pay for nothing. If you do your designs well, that is the easiest thing to do is pull a permit. I have done it for over 30 years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Cool. All right. Well, good. Thank you very much. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
you being
much.
here. Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir, thank you.
It makes you want to move to Henry County.
Hey, we have room.
But anyway, with that being said, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. My boot is in the way.